What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Panthers Advice. Today, man, we got a few things to look at. First thing we're going to look at is the schedule. Now, we've gone over this a couple times, but I wanted to go over it a little bit more in depth today. We're not going to spend too much time on it, but a little bit more in depth and talk about, okay, when we're versing this team, what are we going to expect? And kind of see how long is it going to take for really the rookies to gel. So what I mean by that is we look at Jacksonville. I was thinking, okay, they're more of a moderate offense, but you bring in Travis Hunter, you still have Trevor Lawrence, so a little pass heavy, but I don't know that we're going to rely on the DBs more than the edge guys. You see what I'm saying? I think it's going to be a mix of both. Then we go to Arizona. Now, Arizona is going to be the true test of really Scored and Princely. Not maybe true test in week 2 is too early. But you got James Conner right there. You got Kyler Murray, right, who loves to scramble. He talked about that a couple days ago on some type of podcast, right? Extending plays, past the deadline, right? So Arizona's going to be a big test. Then you go to Atlanta, right? You got Bijan Robinson, his backup, Michael P., Drake London. So Atlanta's going to be a big test, all right? And they got James Pierce Jr. and Jalen Walker, too. So that's going to be an interesting matchup to see there week 3. And then week 4, New England, man, I think it's going to be the ultimate test for the front seven, right? Or not the ultimate test, but really the first big test. Because New England went out and they improved the offensive line. They improved really a lot of that offense too, right? You bring in Stephon Diggs, Drake May another year in the system. That's going to be the ultimate test, right? Has the front seven improved? Then you go to Miami. And Miami is going to be an interesting one too, right? Because you need to get pressure on Tua, but now it's going to test a lot of the DBs. Because Miami is full of speed from Achane to Waddle to Tyreek Hill. That's going to be really the true test to see the depth of our DBs. Dallas, kind of the same thing too. New York Jets, we'll see what happens, right? Is Fields going to be the starter? We'll see what happens there. Buffalo, once again, a mix of that front seven and testing the DBs too. All right, Green Bay, it's going to test the DBs. Saints, we'll see what happens with the Saints. Obviously, Kamara is going to be a factor, and they've got weapons, but we'll see how that quarterback play is, what looks like week 10. And then week 11 versus Atlanta again. So hopefully we're going to see some strides made from week 3 to week 11. Then San Fran, they're always a threat with that West Coast offense they run. All right, Rams, Saints, Tampa Bay, week 16, week 18, and Seattle in between there. So really you're seeing that the front seven is going to be tested the first half of the season, from my understanding, based on how we look at the schedule. All right. And then the secondary, really starting with Buffalo, Green Bay, New Orleans, Atlanta, San Fran, Rams, Tampa Bay twice, and Seattle. We're going to see, how good is our secondary? How good is that depth? Which is interesting because, we don't have a lot of depth there. Like, I think we have a little bit more depth in the front seven, but secondary-wise, not as much depth. It's going to be interesting to see kind of how this all plays out. But that's going to wrap it up for the schedule. Let's keep this thing going. Let's talk about some winners from the Carolina Panthers 2025 offseason program real quick. First up, they have Leggett here. Now, Leggett, a winner number 1 is interesting. Let's take a look at why they say Leggett is winner number 1. So it says selected McMillan at number 8 overall in the 2025 NFL Draft turned up the heat on Leggett. It wasn't a sign that the Panthers were giving up on the receiver, but it did give them a legitimate contingency plan for the number 1 option in the passing game if he cannot raise performance levels accordingly. So Leggett went through a rookie roller coaster, which we all know that, right? Let's talk about why Leggett is a number 1, but he's also not a number 1 when it comes to winner. So from my perspective, Leggett is a winner, but could also be a loser, right? And there's 2 ways to look at this. One way is you have to look at McMillan and how he does his rookie season with Bryce Young. Now, McMillan kind of gets a break a little bit for a couple of reasons. One, all right, you got Chuba Hubbard. You have running backs behind him too, so they have depth there. Defense is most likely going to be improved. You got Jimmy Horn on the inside. You got Bryce Young, another year under this offense with Dave Canales, right? So you bring back the same quarterback 2 years in a row starting. You bring back the head coach 2 years in a row now, right? Well, this will be a second year. So McMillan has a little bit of an advantage. Now, you could say I'm making excuses, kind of for Leggett. Truth is, if McMillan catches it, honestly, he'll probably have a better rookie year than Leggett did, right? So how was Leggett a winner in all this? it goes back really to Antonio Brown and Juju Smith, where Antonio Brown took all the attention from the defense and Juju Smith went off, right? Antonio Brown leaves, and then what happened to Juju Smith? So Leggett has a chance to do some crazy numbers this year as long as McMillan kind of lives up to some of the hype, right? Not all the hype, but some of the hype, because you pair McMillan with Leggett, potentially Horn on the inside. You still got Coker, you got Thielen, you got Chuba, you got Rico. We'll see what Trevor Etienne can provide. On top of that, the tight ends too. Leggett has a chance to do something special. Next one up is Shaw Smith-Wade. So it says Carolina didn't strengthen its cornerback options with the same urgency that other defensive position groups received during the offseason. Dan Morgan is reportedly still looking for another piece, but there's also confidence that those already around can improve accordingly. So essentially, this puts Shaw Smith-Wade right under the microscope, right? The 2024 fifth-round pick is being deployed across the secondary, and his knowledge of the scheme, all right, the concepts, has reportedly enhanced considerably. Let's talk about Shaw Smith-Wade real quick. Yes, he's getting a lot of hype during training camp. All right, he's under a microscope, but why he's potentially a winner in this is because the Panthers didn't go out and get depth. I think they needed it, but they didn't, right? He's next up to get paid if he lives up to the hype, right? He's going to start number 3. He's going to play the nickel, right? JC, Mike, they're going to play left, right. You know, if Hero doesn't switch, you know, you play the number 1, you play the number 2. They're going to play left, right. Shaw Smith-Wade is going to play the slot. He's up next to get paid. They're not going to give J.C. Horn another big contract. Mike J may or may not get one. But Shaw Smith-Wade will get one if he lives up to it. So in a sense, it's kind of like Leggett, right? He's going to be put under a microscope because if he doesn't perform, but a rookie or a free agent that they bring in does perform, we're going to see right away, right? Because you go back to the schedule. So we look at the first 4 games, all right? Brian Thomas, you got Marvin Harrison Jr., kind of number 1 receivers. Atlanta, Drake London, New England, Stephon Diggs. Kind of number 1 guys. So Shaw Smith-Wade potentially can get his feet warmed because come Miami, come Dallas, New York, Buffalo, Green Bay, New Orleans, Atlanta, San Fran, LA, he's going to get tested. So the first 4 weeks, we'll see what happens. Maybe he'll play Marvin Harrison in the slot. Maybe he'll play Travis Hunter. You know, we'll see what happens right there. But Shaw Smith-Wade, he's a winner, but he's under the microscope, so we'll see what happens. All right. Next person up right here is, they said Tommy's potentially a loser when it comes to the offseason. Let's talk about why real quick, or what they write right here. The Panthers endured some terrible injury luck last season. There were several other important factors behind their eventual demise, but this didn't exactly help matters. There haven't been many concerning developments on the health front this offseason. Dan Morgan made some changes to the strength and conditioning and nutrition departments, and it shows. However, it wasn't going to be completely smooth sailing. So it says right here, Dave Canales revealed during Carolina's offseason program that Tommy Tremble had back surgery and is expected to return at some stage before week 1. All right. I'm assuming what they're saying here is that because he's hurt, it's going to allow Mitchell Evans to potentially get more reps and at some point take his spot. I'm not too concerned with it because Sanders isn't going to take Tremble's spot, if we're being honest. Sanders is never going to be your run block first tight end, right? That's not why the Panthers drafted him. When you looked at the highlight tape, that's not what you saw from Sanders, right? Now, I would like to see his run blocking improved, but in that regards, I don't see that happening. Mitchell Evans, to me, is more of your kind of old school tight end, right? I think Tommy Tremble's a good mix of both. He could run block. He can also catch too. So I don't know that Tremble's really a loser in this situation. I think it's honestly the best thing for him, right? Because they have depth. They don't have to rush him back. Last year, really the last, 2 or 3 years, I feel like they've been rushing guys back. Guys have been getting hurt, as we've seen time and time again. So them really bringing on Mitchell Evans, having Sanders, letting Tommy take his time to get fully healthy, I don't know that's a loser. I see where they're going, but I don't know that I agree with that. Let's keep it going. Next up is Bryce Young. Now, why is he a winner? Let's talk Jimmy Horn, Mitchell Evans, Trevor Etienne. They're finally getting depth on offense where you're not putting all the pressure on one guy, right? So you look at receivers, the amount of depth that we have is actually kind of insane. I mean, McMillan isn't proven yet, but even behind McMillan, all right, You got Jalen Coker. You got Adam Thielen. You got Leggett. All right, now Leggett, he just has to take that next step. All right, and then you add 2 rookies. Jimmy Horn, who actually gives you speed. He's a threat down the middle. And there's so many plays where you actually need speed to be a factor to open up other things, whether it's down the field, the left or the right. You need speed. And the Panthers finally have that in the slot. So you got Jimmy Horn. You got McMillan, a number 1. Bryce Young, man, has the potential to do some crazy things this year, right? On top of what you just saw Chuba Hubbard do last season, and now you're going to be able to get him some rest potentially with Rico, with Trevor Etienne too. Plus tight end depth with Sanders and Mitchell Evans. Tremble should hopefully come back fully healthy. Fingers crossed, right? Bryce Young this year should honestly do some crazy things. If we look at the defenses we're going to play, I look at Jacksonville, I'm really not that impressed, right? As a whole, when it comes to their defense. Arizona, we saw it happen last year. Atlanta, you saw what he did. New England has really upgraded that front 7, but we'll see what happens. All right, Miami, again, kind of same thing. Dallas, New York, Buffalo's going to be tough. Green Bay's going to be tough. New Orleans, I think we're fine there, to be honest. Atlanta, they had less sacks than the Panthers did. San Fran, they've always got a tough defense, right? Rams, we'll see what happens. They lost all of their front 7. I mean, really, other than really, maybe that might, if I'm kind of playing devil's advocate right here, maybe that Miami to Green Bay stretch, so Miami, Dallas, New York, Buffalo, Green Bay, that 5-game stretch, other than that, I expect Bryce Young to really go off this year. And if not him, at least the run game. Because Dave Canales talked about he wants smash mouth football, run, pass, right? Run, pass. One or the other. I look at the schedule. I got to say, I really like our chances. San Fran, LA, we'll see what happens there. You get a bye week, you come back, you play the next 4. But this 5-game stretch, man, that might be really the only holdup. With that being said, that's going to wrap it up. Panthers Devices out. Catch you guys on the next one. Take it easy. Peace.